Grand Archivist Vaelara Starweaver hadn't wanted this assignment. After 300 cycles of meticulously cataloging the behavioral patterns of the galaxy's most docile species, the last thing she needed was to study what her colleagues had dubbed the cosmic joke humanity. But here she was, nursing her 7th cup of crystalline calm tea, trying to make sense of her latest field notes while her tentacles twitched with barely contained anxiety. Computer. Begin recording, she sighed, her bioluminescent spots flickering in resignation. Supplemental observations on species 2947b, designation humans. May the eternal stars grant me patience. She took another sip of tea, her color-shifting skin betraying her agitation as she continued. Let's start with the obvious: humans shouldn't exist. Their homeworld, that death trap they call Earth, breaks approximately 37 fundamental rules of habitability. The gravity alone should have crushed their fragile calcium-based skeletons into paste. Instead, they've somehow turned their high-gravity environment into what they call gains. Yes, they actually celebrate their muscles getting larger. They have competitions about it. Vaelara's spots flash bright purple, the equivalent of an eye roll in her species. But that's just the beginning of their absurdity. Take their atmospheric tolerance. Most species require careful environmental controls to survive. Humans? They treat radical temperature variations like a personal challenge. I witnessed one of them, a Canadian subspecies, swimming in partially frozen water for what they called fun. When I questioned this clearly suicidal behavior, they laughed and offered to teach me something called polar bear plunging. She paused to refill her teacup, her tentacles wrapping around the thermos with practiced ease. Their adaptability defies all known evolutionary models. They can survive in environments ranging from sub-zero to desert temperatures. They've built cities in places where the very air freezes, and in regions where the ground regularly spews molten rock. One of their settlements, Las Vegas, exists in a location so inhospitable that even their own scientists admit it shouldn't be there. Their response: they built bigger hotels. The archivist pulled up a holographic display of human physiological data, her spots pulsing with a mixture of horror and fascination. Their endurance capabilities are nothing short of terrifying. While most species evolve sensible hunting strategies, ambush, predation, pack tactics, venom, humans develop something called persistence hunting. They literally chase their prey until it dies of exhaustion. They can sweat, actively cool themselves by secreting water through their skin, allowing them to maintain pursuit for hours or even days. Imagine being hunted by something that just won't stop coming, no matter how fast you run or how long you hide. Now imagine that same creature wanting to be your friend and showing you pictures of its offspring. Vaelara's skin rippled with remembered discomfort. Speaking of their offspring, their young are simultaneously the most vulnerable and most protected beings in the galaxy. They're born completely helpless, yet somehow survive through a combination of their parents' fierce protection and what they call baby-proofing. A fascinating process where they modify their entire environment to protect their determinedly self-destructive young. I once watched a human child attempt to eat a toxic cleaning substance, only to be thwarted by something called a child-proof cap, which, I might add, several adult members of supposedly more advanced species have failed to open. She pulled up another holographic display, this one showing various human inventions. Their technological development is equally baffling. Most species develop technology to overcome their natural limitations. Humans? They develop technology to do things they already can do, just more intensely. They invented powered flight, then decided regular flight wasn't exciting enough. So they invented ways to fly upside down. They created machines to lift heavy objects, then turned them into sports equipment. They developed advanced AI, then taught it to tell jokes. The archivist's spots began pulsing in an erratic pattern as she continued. Their response to danger is perhaps the most perplexing aspect of their psychology. When faced with a threat, most species choose either fight or flight, or flight. Humans have somehow developed a third option: scientific curiosity. They see something dangerous and their first instinct is to study it, categorize it, and figure out how to make it useful or worse, turn it into entertainment. She pulled up another file. This one labeled human entertainment warning may cause psychological distress. Their recreational activities deserve special mention. They intentionally jump out of perfectly functional flying vehicles. They climb frozen waterfalls. They deliberately enter caves filled with toxic gases just to see what's inside. They keep predators as pets. They invented something called hot sauce, which literally triggers their pain receptors, and they put it on their food because they enjoy it. Vaelara's skin had shifted to a pale shade of anxiety green. But here's the truly mind-bending part. Despite all evidence suggesting they should be the galaxy's most aggressive territorial species, they're actually among the most cooperative and friendly. They form emotional bonds with anything capable of showing them affection. And sometimes with things that aren't. They've developed elaborate social protocols just to make other species feel more comfortable around them. They deliberately speak more softly and move more slowly around smaller species. They've even modified their military vessels to include comfort accommodations for non-human crew members. She pulled up another hologram, this one showing various interspecies interactions. They're the only known species that will consistently risk their own lives to save others, regardless of species, during the Great Nebula Crisis. Human rescue ships flew into actively collapsing space-time to save stranded Mindweavers. When the crystalline collective central matrix was threatened by a cascade failure, human engineers volunteered to manually stabilize the system. Despite the risk of crystallization, they donated their own blood to save a dying Voraxian diplomat, despite the fact that Voraxian blood is acidic enough to dissolve most organic matter. The archivist's spots had begun to pulse in a pattern indicating deep contemplation. Their contradictions extend to every aspect of their society. They're a species capable of building planet-destroying weapons, yet they've created thousands of sanctuaries to protect endangered species. They developed faster than light travel, then used it to deliver emergency medical supplies to worlds they'd never met. They have enough firepower to conquer half the galaxy, but instead they're more interested in setting up interspecial cultural exchange programs and something they call food festivals. Vaelara took another long drink of her tea, her color slowly returning to a more professional shade of blue. Perhaps most remarkably, they're aware of how terrifying they appear to other species, and they actively work to counteract this. They've developed entire protocols for first contact scenarios that prioritize making other species feel safe and comfortable. They voluntarily share their technological advances with less developed species. They even created something called the Galactic Cultural Sensitivity Training Program, though I must note that the section on human humor still causes considerable confusion among non-human participants. She pulled up one final hologram, this one showing a human medical facility. Their medical technology deserves special mention. They've turned their natural regenerative abilities into a science that borders on resurrection. They transplant organs from the dead to save the living. They replace damaged body parts with mechanical alternatives. They've developed treatments that can reprogram their own cells to fight diseases. And perhaps most impressively, they share all of this knowledge freely with any species that asks. Taking a final sip of her now cold tea, Vaelara's spots pulsed with a mixture of resignation and admiration. In conclusion, humans are walking contradictions. They're simultaneously the most terrifying and most nurturing species we've encountered. They're technological savants who still get excited about making things with their hands. They're apex predators who devote vast resources to protecting weaker species. They're warriors who write poetry about peace. They're survivors who will risk everything to help others survive. Her spots flickered briefly with amusement. And somehow, despite everything, they've become the galaxy's most enthusiastic participants in interspecies cooperation. They host what they call diplomatic potlucks, where they encourage various species to share their traditional foods. Though I must advise against accepting their offerings of something called extra spicy wings unless your species has excellent regenerative capabilities. Vaelara's final notes took on a more personal tone. Just yesterday, I watched a human console a distressed hive mind drone by sharing pictures of what they call cats. The drone was so fascinated it forgot to maintain its quantum coherence, but instead of taking advantage of this vulnerability, the human spent 3 hours explaining the concept of pets and offering to help the hive mind set up an animal sanctuary. Personal addendum: I've been informed that humans have somehow already accessed this classified report. Not only are they not offended, they've apparently started a social media trend called Proud Deathworlders. They're posting videos of themselves doing increasingly ridiculous things to prove the report's observations correct. I've also received 17 invitations to something called a barbecue and numerous offers to teach me something called skydiving. Vaelara's spots pulsed one final time with a combination of exasperation and fondness. I suppose that's humans for you. They'll take any excuse to make new friends, even if it means turning their own terrifying reputation into a party theme. May the eternal stars help us all. They're probably going to end up running the galaxy's biggest interspecies social club, and somehow, I suspect we'll all be better for it. Her recording complete, Grand Archivist Vaelara Starweaver stared at her empty teacup and wondered if perhaps she should accept one of those barbecue invitations. After all, how dangerous could it be? The humans had promised to provide appropriate protective gear for her tentacles and something they called a novelty drink umbrella that they insisted was essential for proper xenocultural integration. The universe, she decided, had a very strange sense of humor. But perhaps that was exactly why humans fit into it so perfectly. Several cycles later, Vaelara found herself doing something she never thought possible, sitting in what humans called a backyard holding something called a hot dog. While watching her human hosts demonstrate what they termed everyday activities, her spots hadn't stopped flickering between fascination and horror for the past 3 hours. "And this is what we call parkour," announced Sam Chen, one of her human subjects, before proceeding to run up a vertical wall, flip backwards, and land with casual grace. "It's basically efficient urban movement." Efficient. Vaelara's tentacles curled in disbelief. "You just defied 3 different laws of physics for what appears to be no practical purpose whatsoever." "Oh, that's nothing," laughed Dr. Maria Rodriguez, another human researcher. "Wait until you see what we do with our powered armor suits. We've turned obstacle course running into an Olympic sport." Vaelara made a note in her datapad. Humans continue to treat potentially lethal activities as entertainment. Previous observations confirmed. She then watched in mounting concern as Sam demonstrated something called breakdancing in a full combat exoskeleton. "But why?" she finally asked, her spots pulsing in confusion. "The armor is designed for combat situations. Why would you use it to spin on your head?" "Because it's fun," both humans answered simultaneously, as if this explained everything. To them, perhaps it did. The archivist's observations were interrupted by the arrival of Commander Sarah O'Neill, who came bearing something called a cheese platter and stories about her latest deep space expedition. "So there we were." "Mer," Sarah began, casually munching on something that Vaelara's sensors indicated was technically a form of controlled rot. Face to face with a quantum anomaly that was literally eating space-time. "Standard procedure says to retreat and call for specialized containment units. But our xenobiologist noticed that the particle patterns looked similar to a terrestrial ballet dance." "You didn't," Vaelara whispered, already knowing they had. "Oh yes, we did. We synced our ship's quantum harmonics to match the anomaly's rhythm and basically waltzed with it until it stabilized. Turns out it was a baby space whale trying to communicate. We've got joint custody with its pod now. They visit every 3rd solar cycle for what we call dance lessons." Vaelara added another note: humans continue to solve potentially catastrophic situations with methods that somehow work despite violating all known logic. Her attention was drawn to a group of children playing nearby with what appeared to be a Dractherian hound, a species normally known for its aggressive territorial behavior. Yet here it was, wearing something called a flower crown, and happily participating in something the children called tea party. "How?" she asked, gesturing toward the improbable scene. "Oh, that's Luna," Maria explained. "She showed up at our xenobiology lab looking scary and hurt. The kids from the nearby school started sneaking her treats and reading her stories. Now she's our therapy animal for incoming alien diplomats. Turns out most species calm down pretty quickly when they see a former apex predator wearing pink ribbons and sharing cookies with 6-year-olds. Vaelara's spots flickered rapidly as she processed this information. "You're telling me you weaponized cuteness?" "Weaponized is such a harsh word," Sam interjected, now hanging upside down from a training bar. "We prefer tactically deployed. Adorable works great for diplomatic relations. Did you know we resolved the century-long conflict between the Silicon Collective and the Organic Alliance by introducing both sides to kittens?" "That's classified information," Commander O'Neill mock whispered before adding, "But you should see the joint research facility they built. Half the labs are dedicated to optimal pet care and toy development. They're working on something called robot laser pointer games now." Vaelara watched as a small human child fearlessly approached her with what appeared to be a crude drawing. "I made this for you," the child announced proudly. "It's you and me having a tea party on the moon. I added extra sparkles because Mom says your spots are pretty." Looking at the drawing, which depicted her with entirely too many tentacles and what appeared to be a party hat, Vaelara felt something shift in her understanding of humans. Here was a young member of a species that could literally hunt prey to exhaustion, offering artwork and friendship with complete sincerity. "Computer." Additional observation, she subvocalized to her recording device. "Humans appear to have weaponized sincerity itself. Their young demonstrate an unprecedented ability to bypass standard diplomatic protocols through what they term being cute effectiveness concerning." Her musing was interrupted by the arrival of more humans, these ones carrying something called a karaoke machine and wearing what they assured her were totally necessary party hats. "You haven't lived until you've heard a multi-species rendition of Don't Stop Believin'," Sam insisted, already setting up the equipment. "We've programmed it to account for non-human vocal ranges and everything. We had to after the incident with the harmonious cluster," Maria added. "Turns out their natural resonance frequency is perfect for power ballads, but they kept accidentally shattering windows. Now we have special dampeners and everything. And you did this because," Vaelara prompted. "Music brings people together," the humans chorused. as if this justified the extensive modification of safety protocols for the sake of interspecies karaoke parties. Commander O'Neill nodded sagely. You should see our first contact protocols now. Nothing breaks the ice like a good sing-along. We once prevented a war with the Quantum Collective because both sides got really into something called disco. Vaelara made another note: humans continue to defeat advanced civilizations through the power of what they call good vibes, success rate alarmingly high. As the evening progressed, Vaelara found herself being taught something called the electric slide by a mixed group of humans, reformed space pirates, and what appeared to be 3 sentient gas clouds wearing specially designed party hats. Additional observation she recorded: while attempting to coordinate her tentacles according to the dance instructions, humans have developed the ability to turn anything, including scientific observation, into what they call a party, most concerning development, starting to enjoy it. Later, as she watched Sam teach a group of crystalline entities how to breakdance safely with appropriate padding and warning signs about potential crystal chipping, Vaelara realized something profound about humanity's true superpower. Final observation for today she recorded, her spots glowing with what she would later deny was amusement. Humans have not merely adapted to their Deathworld origins, they have somehow managed to convince the rest of the galaxy that their completely irregular approach to existence is not just normal, but desirable. Evidence: I am currently wearing what they call a friendship bracelet made by a human child, learning a dance move called the robot, and seriously considering their offer to go surfing next weekend. She watched as a human teenager taught a hive mind drone how to make friendship bracelets, while nearby, a quantum physicist explained the rules of double Dutch jump rope to a group of time travelers. Additional note: despite my best attempts at professional detachment, I appear to have been successfully integrated into what humans call their friend group send help, or maybe just more party supplies, when in Rome, as they say. Though I'm still not entirely sure why they keep referencing this Rome place. The sound of laughter, human and alien alike, filled the air as someone suggested something called a conga line. Vaelara found herself being gently pulled into the line, her tentacles automatically matching the rhythm. Final addendum she recorded, her spots glowing with unprecedented brightness. The humans might be onto something after all. End report. Right after this song, I've been assured it's a classic. A week later, Vaelara found herself in what the humans called a totally normal situation. Hanging upside down in a safety harness while observing what they termed routine maintenance on their space station's quantum core. Pass me the sonic wrench, called out engineer Jack Thompson, who was currently doing what he called a quick fix while floating in zero gravity. And maybe another coffee. Your species, Vaelara noted, her spots flickering in disbelief, is the only one I've ever encountered that performs maintenance on quantum machinery while consuming stimulants. Oh, this isn't just any coffee, Jack grinned, accepting both wrench and beverage. This is Jenny from Astrophysics Special Blend. She figured out how to grow coffee plants in quantum superposition. Every cup tastes like all possible perfect coffees simultaneously. You, weaponized coffee. Vaelara's tentacles curled in surprise. Weaponized is a strong word, Dr. Jenny Park called from her nearby workstation. I prefer tactically enhanced for maximum productivity. Besides, it was an accident. I was trying to solve some quantum equations and forgot to turn off the growth chamber's probability field. You accidentally created quantum coffee while doing other work. Vaelara's spots pulsed with what she'd come to recognize as resigned acceptance of human chaos. That's how we make half our discoveries, Jack laughed, casually readjusting the station's gravitational field with one hand while sipping his impossible coffee with the other. Did you hear about how we invented teleportation? Someone was trying to fix the office microwave and accidentally discovered how to manipulate space-time. The microwave still doesn't work right, Jenny added cheerfully. But hey, now we can instantaneously transport matter across galaxies. Fair trade, if you ask me. Vaelara made another note: humans continue to make groundbreaking scientific discoveries through what appears to be a combination of accident, caffeine, and what they call winging it. Her observations were interrupted by an alert from the station's AI, Dave, digitally augmented virtual entity, though the humans insisted they named it after some guy from accounting who makes great cookies. Attention all personnel, Dave announced in what Vaelara had learned was its mildly concerned voice. We have an incoming Class 3 temporal anomaly. Also, the break room is out of donuts. The temporal anomaly will arrive in approximately 5 minutes. The new donuts will arrive on Tuesday. Just once, Vaelara sighed, I'd like to experience what humans consider a boring day. Oh, this is a boring day, Jenny assured her, already pulling up holographic displays of the anomaly. Now, if you want excitement, you should have been here last week when we had simultaneous visits from future us, past us, and alternate dimension us. The party was amazing, though keeping track of which Jenny was which got confusing after the karaoke started. Jack nodded sagely while making what appeared to be completely unauthorized modifications to his quantum wrench. The best part was when all the different versions of Dave from accounting actually did show up with cookies from various timelines. Turns out the secret ingredient is slightly different in each reality. We're still running tests on the implications for multidimensional baking physics. Before Vaelara could process this information, the temporal anomaly arrived 3 hours early and accompanied by what appeared to be sentient mathematics. "Oh, neat," Jenny exclaimed, her excitement completely inappropriate for the situation. "The equations are dancing. Quick, someone get the quantum coffee. I want to see if they can taste it." What followed was perhaps the most uniquely human approach to crisis management Vaelara had ever witnessed. Instead of following standard containment protocols, the humans offered refreshments to the sentient equations, taught them Earth dance moves, somehow convinced them to help optimize the station's efficiency through what they called interpretive mathematical dance, started planning an inter-universal cultural exchange program. Additional observation Vaelara recorded, watching as a differential equation performed what humans called the worm across a quantum probability field. Humans appear to have developed a diplomatic strategy based entirely on turning potential disasters into impromptu social gatherings. Success rate implausibly high. "You haven't seen anything yet," Commander Lisa Chen commented, appearing beside her with a plate of what she called emergency cookies, apparently different from regular cookies due to their higher chocolate content. "Wait until you see what happens when we introduce them to cat videos. You're not seriously going to show fundamental mathematical constructs videos of Earth felines, are you?" Lisa's grin was answer enough. 30 minutes later, Vaelara watched in astonishment as the sentient equations collaborated with Dave to create what they called the ultimate cat video compilation. A project that somehow involved quantum computing, multiple dimensions, and something the humans called sick beats. "I theoretically understand each individual word in that sentence," Vaelara noted, "yet somehow the combination makes no sense." "That's humanity for you," Jack called out, now teaching a particularly enthusiastic logarithm how to breakdance, making friends with the fundamental forces of reality, one party at a time. The day only got stranger from there. By evening, the station had established first contact with 3 new forms of consciousness, accidentally invented a new form of quantum entertainment, solved several fundamental physics problems mostly by accident, started an inter-universal dance competition, run out of coffee twice. Final observation for today Vaelara recorded, watching as humans and mathematical constructs alike attempted something called the Macarena across multiple probability states simultaneously. Humanity's greatest weapon may be their ability to make the absurd seem normal. Even I am beginning to accept their peculiar approach to existence as logical. She paused her recording, realizing with mild horror that she was actually looking forward to next week's scheduled anomaly, something involving what the humans called a quantum barbecue and interdimensional line dancing. Additional note: I appear to have been thoroughly corrupted by human influences. I find myself asking why not instead of why with increasing frequency. Most concerning development, it's actually working. As if to prove her point, a group of junior engineers chose that moment to demonstrate what they called quantum limbo, a game that somehow involved bending both bodies in space-time while music played. Final addendum she recorded, her spots glowing with what could only be described as amusement. The humans have not merely adapted to the universe's dangers, they have somehow convinced the universe itself to join their endless party. Evidence. I am currently watching mathematical constants perform choreographed dance moves while quantum coffee defies several laws of physics in the break room. She watched as Jenny attempted to teach a particularly enthusiastic prime number how to high-five a task complicated by the fact that numbers don't traditionally have hands. Warning to future xenoanthropologists, she added to her report. Prolonged exposure to humans may result in decreased risk aversion, increased tendency toward what they call going with the flow, and inexplicable urges to solve problems through the application of what they term good vibes, most serious side effect finding oneself actually enjoying it. "Hey Vaelara," Jack called out, interrupting her recording. "We're about to teach the unified field theory how to play limbo. Want to join?" And to her own surprise, she did. After all, how many beings could say they'd done the limbo with the fundamental forces of the universe? Final note, she subvocalized as she joined the line. "The humans might be chaos incarnate, but perhaps the galaxy is better for it. Though I do wish they'd stop referring to potentially reality-ending phenomena as Tuesday End Report. Right after this dance, I'm told it's important for diplomatic relations." The sound of laughter, human, alien, and mathematical, echoed through the station as reality itself learned to party, human style. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the universe smiled. Or perhaps that was just another temporal anomaly. With humans around, it was getting harder to tell the difference.